Slavery is a terrible practice that has been abolished in many parts of the world. However, there are many historical places related to slavery that still stand as proof of its existence. It's important to keep in mind that these places represent a tragic period in human history and should be handled sensitively and with respect. These places serve as an important reminder of the need to acknowledge and address the legacies of slavery and the ongoing fight for racial justice and equality. The following are the 7 historical sites related to slavery that still stand today. Number 1. The Elmina Castle, Ghana. Elmina Castle is a UNESCO World Heritage Site located in Elmina, Ghana. It was constructed by the Portuguese in the 15th century and later used by the Dutch as a center for the transatlantic slave trade. The castle served as a holding facility for enslaved Africans who were captured, traded, and transported to the Americas. The castle is a grim reminder of the brutal and barbaric treatment of enslaved Africans during the transatlantic slave trade. Conditions inside the castle were terrible, as African slaves were kept in cramped and filthy conditions, subjected to physical and sexual abuse, and forced to endure long, arduous journeys across the sea to the Americas. Number 2. The Slave House at Gorée Island, Senegal. Located on the island of Gorée, off the coast of Senegal, the House of Slaves was used as a slave trading center from the 15th to the 19th century. The island was a major center of the transatlantic slave trade and served as a detention place for millions of enslaved Africans who were captured, sold, and transported across the ocean to the Americas. The house served as a site of the brutal separation of families, with parents separated from their children and spouses separated from each other. Today, the Slaves House is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and serves as a memorial to the millions of Africans who suffered and died in captivity. It is a powerful symbol of the ongoing fight for social justice and human rights, and a reminder of the need to acknowledge and address the legacy of slavery. Number 3. The Whitney Plantation in Louisiana, USA. The Whitney Plantation is a museum in Wallace, Louisiana, USA that is dedicated to the history and experiences of those who were held as slaves in the United States. It is Louisiana's only plantation museum with a sole focus on slavery. The plantation was established in 1752 and was a working sugar plantation until the 1970s. The site now serves as a memorial to the slaves who used to reside and work there. Tourists can take guided tours of the grounds and buildings, which include the Antioch Baptist Church, a historic slave cabin, and the monument to enslaved children. The museum's displays and educational programs aim to give a complete and accurate understanding of slavery in the United States, including the brutal living conditions of enslaved people, the economics of the slave trade, and the cultural contributions of African Americans. Number 4. The Slave Lodge in Cape Town, South Africa. Slave Lodge is a historical museum in Cape Town, South Africa. It was originally constructed as a slave lodge for the Dutch East India Company in the late 17th century, and it later served as a government building and a post office. The museums explore the history of the transatlantic slave trade and Cape Town's role as a center for the slave trade. It also examines the lives of enslaved Africans and their contributions to South African society, including the continuing legacy of slavery in South Africa and around the world. The Slave Lodge is an important site of education and remembrance. It serves as a great reminder of the horrors of the slave trade and the inhumane treatment of enslaved Africans. It is an important destination for those seeking to understand the legacy of slavery and its impact on modern society. Number 5. The Door of No Return at Ouidah, Benin. This door represents the place where many Africans were forcibly taken from their homeland and sold into slavery during the transatlantic slave trade. The Door of No Return is located in Ouidah, on the coast of Benin in West Africa. It was an important departure point for slave ships bound for the Americas. The site features a large arch and a statue of a woman looking out to sea, representing the many Africans who left their homeland and never returned. The area around the site is also home to many other monuments and museums documenting the history of the slave trade and its impact on Africa and its people. Today, the site serves as a symbol of remembrance and a reminder of the atrocities of the slave trade. The Door of No Return is also a major destination for tourists and researchers interested in learning more about the history and legacy of the transatlantic slave trade. Number 6. The Zanzibar Slave Market, Tanzania. This is a historical site on the island of Zanzibar, off the coast of Tanzania. The market served as a major slave trade center in East Africa during the 19th century, with thousands of African slaves passing through its doors. Zanzibar Slave Market was known for its inhuman treatment of enslaved Africans, who were often held in small, filthy spaces and subjected to physical and sexual abuse. The market also played an important role in separating families, as spouses were separated from each other, and parents were separated from their children. Today, the Zanzibar slave market is a powerful reminder of the horrors of the slave trade and the brutal treatment of enslaved Africans. It is an important site of education and remembrance, and a symbol of the ongoing fight for social justice and human rights. Number 7. The Slave Cabins at Boone Hall Plantation, South Carolina, USA. These are a group of original cabins used to house slaves on a plantation in South Carolina, USA. Boone Hall Plantation is one of the oldest operating plantations in the United States, and the cabins are an important reminder of the history of slavery in the country. These cabins are made of wood and were built in the 1790s. They were once home to hundreds of slaves who worked on the plantation, which produced crops such as pecans and cotton. The cabins are small and cramped, with only 1 or 2 rooms, and could have housed entire families. Today, these cabins serve as a museum and memorial to the slaves who lived and worked on the plantation. Visitors can tour the cabins and learn about the history of slavery in the United States, as well as the experiences of the people who were forced to live in these conditions.